G'day everyone, artist Wayne here on the last ride of the year. Think of it as a Christmas ride. It was supposed to be a bearded gentleman's ride, but the arse completely fell out of that one. So with a map that looked like your auntie's varicose veins, we headed off on the road less travelled to find the best trails and have the most fun ever. So without any further ado, welcome to the Magical Mystery Tour! And the first thing I did was impress the boys with my new riding gear. Yes, even I was getting sick of looking like a homeless person. This is how I begin my day, with a big cup of Start You Bastard.
Wipe your mustache.
And after a hearty breakfast at Burns Road Cafe Orimba, we bid farewell to our mate Mad Mel the bin chicken, and we followed Gavin, the old bull-dozer, to our next meeting point where we'd be catching up with a very special guest. But when Gavin's very first turn was a wrong one, well, I began to worry. However, he did get himself sorted, and before we knew it, we were hurtling towards Sydney and onto the ferry that would take us across Barara waters and onto Glenorrey, which is exactly where we were meeting our special guest, our lead rider. And the 5 of us riders could not wait. Riders like Nicky-P, Ken the man with the ancient Chinese beard, Stevie Wonder the man from down under, and of course Gavin, the old bull-dozer, who's also an expert crop duster. Just ask T-Rex, the bartender at Bathurst's Victoria Hotel. Our destination today would be Capertee, the small village which lies 46 kilometres north of Lithgow, New South Wales, Australia. But after that, who knew where we would go? Because this ride was a mystery tour, and we would just be booking our accommodation on the fly. So once we arrived at Glenorrey, it was time for us to meet the man, the myth, the legend, our lead rider, the one and only Allan Wilson, aka Dr. Suzuki and the Trailblazing King. Allan! And just like that, we hit the dirt. And it only took less than 15 minutes for Allan to have us having all the fun we could handle. You see, Allan knows all the hidden roads less travelled. He's an expert trailblazer. Our 4 days of fun had only just begun. And I can tell you now, the day was bloody hot. It was steaming. But being adventure riders, we needed to be prepared for anything. Today's forecast was a 50% chance of rain, and tomorrow's was 80% chance of 20 to 40 millimetres, depending on where we went. And considering I'm a bit of a fair weather rider and hate nothing more than getting wet, well, apart from going over logs, it was a lucky thing that I had new gear, because I now had waterproof liners. So as the day's heat increased, we were making great progress. And soon we would find ourselves on the high seas of Sackville, catching the ferry to more dirt, and hoping it was going to cool down, because take it from me, I was beginning to wilt like a flower. We were now making our way towards Bilpin on some very fine tracks indeed. And what about the bikes we were all riding, I hear you ask? Well, our lead rider Allan Wilson was riding the famous bush pig, his Suzuki DR650. Clearly Stevie Wonder has good taste, because he was riding the same bike I was, the mighty Yamaha Tenere 700. As for Gavin, the old bulldozer, well, he was riding his old school KTM 690 Enduro R. Ken, the man with the ancient Chinese beard, and Nicky-P, well, they were both riding the new CF Moto 450 MT. That's right, they were riding the new Chinese chariot, the little mini Temu T7. We were almost at Bilpin, so just imagine our surprise when the weather went from this to this.
How going? This is the best. Good weather.
But as quickly as the rains came, the skies parted and the sun's rays beamed down to kiss me on my bald head.
It's sunny. Phew. Rain, what rain?
We had now travelled along the Bills line of road and hit more dirt at the Zigzag Railway in Clarence, New South Wales. The rain was now ahead of us, so there was no dust and the temperature was now perfect for riding. This, my fellow adventure riders, was turning into a terrific day indeed. And helping me catch all the action on this fabulous 4 days of riding was Ken, the man with the ancient Chinese beard, and Stevie Wonder, the man from down under, who obviously heard the call after our last outing and came fully equipped with his action camera. Now, as we're riding here on these beautiful trails, and every now and again we were getting a light smattering of rain, I'd like to point out the fact that I'm still running a bald rear tyre. Yes, that's right, I really do like to get my money's worth. Now, I'm in no way using this as an excuse for what's to come. I'm merely pointing out a fact. Another fact I'd like to point out is my bike, for some reason, will only start in neutral. For some bizarre reason, she won't start in gear. It's not a huge pain in the ass, but it does make it difficult if you're stuck on a rocky, wet hill, and it's so steep that knocking it into neutral can be quite difficult. Anyway, now that we're climbing this big bastard of a hill, you'll see what I mean. Allan was about to hand us our first big workout. So close to the top, but now I had to deal with a bald rear tyre and a bike that wouldn't start in gear.
Hey? First. I can't start in gear. Can you just put your foot on the rib? Got it?
This was now becoming a two-man operation, but try as I might, my bald rear tyre was making it impossible for me to move forward.
Al, I'm going to just back up right onto that flat there. Let me go back. Ready?
Sometimes, boys and girls, you need to go back in order to move forward.
Quick before it rains! Before it rains! Oh.
Well, after all my digging around, there was finally 3 bikes at the top. Now it was time to get Ken, the man with the ancient Chinese beard, riding his Chinese chariot to the top. Alright, 5 bikes were now up, and when Stevie Wonder said he didn't want to ride his bike up, I jumped at the opportunity for a second chance. I was fully determined to get this Yamaha Tenere 700 all the way to the top in one go, or send it over the edge trying. Well, after all that strenuous activity, it was time for some rest and relaxation as we took in the breathtaking views before hitting more trails. Oh yeah, this was a day that just kept giving, thanks to our mate Al. And just think about this, considering we started our ride in the stinking heat. I mean, it was absolutely unbearable, but now our riding conditions were perfect. If it stayed like this over the next 4 days, well, we'd be happy as pigs in shit. And talking about all things brown, it wasn't far up this trail that our mate Gavin, the old bull-dozer, would do a little poo in his ride pants when he almost came off. And thankfully I was there to catch it. The near miss, not the poo. Because if you don't get it on video, it might as well not have happened. Strangely enough, the near miss didn't seem to slow Gavin down at all. In fact, he seemed to go even faster. Which brought us 15 minutes from Capertee when we hit the tar road. But we didn't go to Capertee. It was only 4:30 and Allan had way more fun in store for us as he took us through some stunning countryside made even more beautiful by the ominous storm clouds which were just ahead of us. Big puddles and muddy trails were an indication of what we were following. And how lucky we were to be missing all the rain. We could hear the thunder and every now and again we had to dodge the lightning. But we were staying dry and that was the main thing. Although the cloud cover did make it quite dark, which had me wondering how Allan was going riding his mighty Suzuki DR650, which has a headlight like an old miner's lantern. Having Nicky-P ahead of me on his mini-T was the best thing, because he emptied all the puddles. What a fantastic day we were all having. And considering we didn't leave Glenora till about 11:30, 12 o'clock, we had certainly packed in a lot of fun on today's ride. And the big bonus was we had stayed dry. Well, I was dry until Ken wet me. Soon we would arrive in Capertee, where we'd fuel up and settle in for the night at the Royal Hotel.
Cheers. Cheers.
After a great feed and a few drinks, the only drama we had last night was me kicking the coffee table and splitting my little toe open. The next morning I thought I was up early, but Dr. Suzuki well and truly beat me. Good morning, Allan. Alan's just changing the clutch in the DR650.
Secretly, no one knew until you turned up.
Ken got off and he went, Alan must have started work because I can smell petrol. 'Twas our second day and already it was a hive of activity as Alan was replacing clutch plates in his mighty Suzuki DR650. So after a bowl of cereal for breakfast, I checked in on Dr. Suzuki and he was almost done. Time to wake up the lads because we were burning daylight. Drop your cocks and grab your socks. Get the up. What a cracker of a day! And considering the forecast was 20 to 40 millimetres of rain, well, it looked like we'd dodged another bullet. It had rained all night, but maybe that was it. So with a sense of excitement, I for one was ready for what our trailblazing lead rider Allan Wilson had in store for us today. And the first trail we hit was the beautiful wilderness that is Turon Gate. Turon Gate's mountain eco-retreat is a tranquil and unspoilt property offering pet-friendly log cabins, glamping and camping for an unforgettable getaway. This stunning property with its breathtaking views winds its way around the Turon River and takes you to the small village of Safala, Australia's oldest surviving gold rush town. There's not much left there today, but the valley was once famed for the riches found in the area, and it had a large population of 10,000 frenetic miners and once had 40 hotels. Now that we'd come down off the mountain, we had all these water crossings, and I'm not sure if anybody noticed, I certainly didn't, but every time we came to a water crossing, there seemed to be more water in them. Clearly some places had received a lot of rain, but all we had to do was get to Safala. We'd already worked up an appetite and were looking forward to a second breakfast. You all know the saying, once bitten, twice shy. Well, our mate Ken, the man with the ancient Chinese beard, was a little hesitant to cross this water causeway, and I'm not surprised. I've seen many a bike drown right here, and by now the water was pumping along. But in the end, it wasn't Ken that needed to worry, it was Gavin. I think he may have left another little deposit in those ride pants of his. By now we were all chomping at the bit for breakfast, and we only had one more causeway to get across, and we were practically in Sofala. The next river has a bridge, or so we thought. You see, my fellow adventure riders, the bridge to Sofala had washed away.
I might want to use the longer one. I'm hopeful.
There was a detour, but it had also washed away. Not to be deterred, our mate Allan, the trailblazer and river crosser, reckoned we could get across right here. I mean, the alternative was an 80-kilometre ride back, so bugger that. It was time to roll up our sleeves and get wet. It's amazing what you'll do for a second breakfast. And lucky for us, the property we were going through was a deceased estate, because around here you can get shot for trespassing. Anyhow, none of us could commune with the dead, so we couldn't ask permission, but we didn't think they'd mind. And just like that, one bike was across. Not too bad, but we still had the heavy Tenerays. And the lighter Temu Tenerays as well.
You'll feel my strength kick in now. See how easy it is?
Bikes across, and now it was time for Stevie Wonder, the man from down under, to push his bike across whilst Allan rode it. Clearly, after I rode his bike yesterday, he no longer trusts me. Well, that was 3 bikes across, and Allan made it look easy, so now it was my turn. Well, this was embarrassing. It was now turning into a 4-man operation. 5 if you count Stevie Wonder, the man from down under, videoing the bloody thing. But in the end, that was 4 bikes across, and even though I f***ed up, we were making great progress. I could almost smell the bacon and eggs cooking. Our second breakfast at Sofala was beckoning us. Gavin just needed to get on his bike. One more bike to go, and it was the lighter Teneray, the Temu Teneray, the Chinese chariot. Well done, boys, and no one fell off. Shortly after that we arrived in Sofala like conquering heroes, and the population lined the streets, all 7 of them, clapping and cheering. That's right, we felt like Genghis Khan after he conquered Central Europe, China, the Middle East and even Russia. But now it was time to settle down, dry off and feast on breakfast. We'd certainly need our strength for what was to come. Would there be more water crossings? You betcha, because we were about to hit the famous bridle track. And some silly bugger would drown his bike in the Turon River. Who would it be? Well, I can tell you now, the silly bugger was me, and it's the first time I've ever drowned a bike. But the big question was, would we get it going? Well, to find out, you'll have to wait for the next episode. So hit the like and subscribe button, because I know you want to, and I'll see you in episode 2 of our magical mystery tour. I'm artist Wayne Dowson, and thanks for watching, everyone.